is a R10 10-inch under the seat powered subwoofer, and I'm putting it in my transit van. As you can see, it's quite full. But the cool thing is that a lot of the wires have already been run. You basically need power from a battery. You need to have some kind of information from the speakers or the stereo itself. I actually have the wires run to the speakers in the back and they come up front, and then I'll be putting those directly into the sub part of this. And that's what's nice about this, is it is a sub and speaker all in one. So let's go ahead and get this out as soon as I figure out how. There it is. And see what we got in the box. Right, so we got a bunch of mounting hardware. We have a really nice fuse block. That is nice. I have not seen one like this in one of these packages before, but look at that. That is sweet. A good place to screw your main power through so you don't pull off your car. We got some mounting hardware. We've got some Velcro if you just want to Velcro it down, which I might actually do. This is your high output input. So basically, if you're coming from speakers that are coming from your stereo, you can hook directly into these and then directly into your subwoofer and pass through as a low power input, which is really nice if you don't want to run RCA cables or you don't have the ability to. We have some terminal connectors. And like I said, a lot of this I don't know that I'll be using because it already has some of it already hooked up. Checking. I'm going to have to swap out this. This is not the same as what I have, so I'll be using that. I'm going to be using this. I won't be using the hardware. It comes with a nice documentation talking about it. Yep. Looks like it has a remote line. It looks like it has a ground line. It has a power cable. And it does look like it has a remote. So we'll look at that here in a second. Has a low pass, a bass boost, an input, different phases so that if your speakers are out of phase, you could swap them. That's actually nice for people who don't understand that. Always make sure that your left and right plus and minus are correct, or your speakers will fight against each other in sound waves. So don't do that. It does have inputs and a high level, low level. So cool. Go ahead and take a look. So this is a high voltage pass. So if you want to do high voltage from your speakers, you have something that has a lot of voltage. Now this is just a standard stereo. I'm not worried about that. You can push it down to an RCA and then push RCAs out, which is nice. That's a nice little addition inside of there. We will not be using that. Now, I do like they give some beefy cables for this. Look at the size of that 8-gauge power cable. Very nice. And let me see if I can figure out how long. 1, 2, 3. So about 24 foot of cable. I'm about 5'10". So there's your little ground wire. You don't need to go very far to the ground. This is your remote cable. I might have to run a remote. This is your little sub. I'll go ahead and pull it out here so you can see it. This is the sub remote. And it just hooks up with a cord that I think they did with us. I haven't seen it. But this allows you to change the gain on your, not really the gain, they call it sub-level power. So you can turn this to set how loud your sub is, which is kind of nice to be able to do that while you're sitting down. And this is a really stiff variable knob. I like that, so things don't get knocked out of place. I'll put that down here. This is some nice RCA cables. It has 2 right angles. I'm not even going to take them out because I'm not going to use those. But again, that looks to be maybe a 24 foot also. Here we go. This is your remote cable. I will be using that. So the remote is for your bass. And that just plugs into here. And then that plugs into the other side of your sub. And it's got some nice mounting holes so you can just stick it right on the side of your dash or something like that. Or use the Velcro. All right, so here is the beast itself. So let's go ahead and pull this out back here. All right, let's get this out of the bag. And like I said, this is a sub and amplifier all in one, which makes it nice for behind the seat, depending on where you have a little bit of room. So there is the settings. I'll try to go through them. You have your low pass, bass boost, input. This is your phase 180. This is your on off. There is an auto power, which I love. So basically what you do is you just hook up your power, just hook up your ground, and then you hook up your speakers, and then you don't need to hook into a remote power from your stereo, which is nice because then it senses that the speakers are sending power and says, oh, I need to work, so it just uses the power and the ground and just turns itself on. This is where your remote control goes into. These are your RCAs, which we're not going to be used. A nice 40 amp mini fuse, and then there's your ground, your remote, and your 12 volt. But again, we're not going to be using this remote power because we're just going to do the auto power. So the mounting hardware that it came with, you can see is little tabs, and down below you can see that you can screw these tabs in to really get a nice solid connection on this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this wired up, and I'll get back with you. All right, so you can see I actually did end up using the mounts and just mounted it to the side of the wall because the seats underneath this, there's no room whatsoever. They actually go clear down to the floor. So I'm going to clean this up. Let's give it a turn on and see what it sounds like. I just wanted to play this song real quick, and you can see the difference in the bass whenever it hits. I thought that this was actually pretty good. I was just cleaning up the wires and this one came on. Just wait for it to hit here pretty soon. That sounds good. And it gets a little bit heavier here in a second. Alright, so I got some music playing. I've got the little thing in my hand here, and I'm going to start turning it up and you'll hear the difference. It really adds a nice touch to the rest of the music. It's not too overbearing, but it sounds good. You can see it down there thumping away. And that's about halfway up on the bass. I can crank it up even more, but it doesn't really do much because I think it's basically protecting itself from being too overly pushed. And I have the bass boost up the whole way, and you can turn that down if you want to control it a little bit more, and everything seems like it's working well. The input, I noticed, really controls how much your music is coming through, but it sounds good. It was easy to hook up. I mean, if you know how to hook up this kind of stuff, then it's right up your alley. And I really like this because it can sit up front, and my wife's not really big into bass, so there we go. Pretty cool.